because if you remember a couple months ago, there was I tried to find the article, but I could not find it, in the Wall Street Journal talking about how AM radio was going to be, they were thinking about taking AM radio out of all these cars.
Right.
And I remember we talked at the time that it wasn't just about the fact that somehow it was they were taking it out of the cars. They were going after AM radio because you know what dominates AM radio most of the time across this country is conservative talk.
Oh, yeah.
That is what dominates AM radio, sports as well, but conservative talk. And, of course, Rush Limbaugh owned the 12 to 3. Hannity owns 3 to 6. Levin owns 6 to 9. And you've got other greats, Hugh Hewitt across the country. You have, you could go through the list. Dan Bongino now, obviously, and others who have since we lost Rush. But conservative talk radio has dominated AM airways forever. It is the most profitable. It makes a lot of money. The demographics are extremely well listened to throughout. Left-leaning talk makes zero money.
Yes.
There's no money. There's no sponsors. There's no listeners. And that's why you don't hear a lot of left talk on AM radio. It's all conservative talk. They've dominated it. So when I saw that article, and they made it about the cars and the technology and just, FM and Sirius and we're going to satellite and it's just the technology's moving on. For me, it was never about the technology. This is the way they've always wanted to try to get rid of conservative talk radio. So stemming from that, obviously we've seen, think back to 2016, people like Alex Jones in the early years of the Trump years were, deplatformed and tech companies would go after him and he would get thrown off of these places. And of course, he was always kind of put in this box as this fringe character at the time. And people were like, well, he's nuts. So it's not, they're deplatforming him and giving him a hard time. And he's losing sponsors and he's losing whatever. He can't get ads and can't get platformed on these places other than his own infrastructure. It was never looked at. It was always looked at more if he was this fringe character guy, not the slippery slope that it ended up being. And of course, then in 2017, if you remember, that diversity guy from Google came out. Remember, kind of a whistleblower. We got his notes about the diversity woke practices that Google was undertaking. And again, people paid attention, but not really thinking like there's this slippery slope of these big tech companies. Josh Hawley, early in his career, if you remember, he used to talk about it a lot, Section 230, and the reforms that were needed. And it kind of building steam, leading really to October 2020, when the New York Post, the fourth largest paper in the country, and the laptop from hell story, and how that got deplatformed on all of these tech websites, including Twitter at the time. That's the fourth largest newspaper in the country. People were not even allowed to go read it or share it. People got the post got locked out of their account. And we all remember living through that, what it was like. And from that, the 2020 election, besides all the fraud that we know happened, when people are asked, if you knew the true extent of the laptop from hell, would that have changed the way you voted, or would you have continued to vote for Biden if you knew that laptop story was real and to the extent of what was on there and the fact that the FBI had it? And, of course, most people who are asked about that say, no, I wouldn't have. So it probably swung the election as well.
Yeah, I think they estimated around 17 to 18%.
Yeah. We also know that Google and Facebook and Twitter, before Elon Musk bought it, pre-Elon, could change their algorithms to swing search results to favor candidates. So we know what it has been like. Now, Elon came along and bought Twitter, and obviously some things have changed. But today, Glenn Beck wakes up to find his very well listened to, very popular, huge, as a matter of fact, co-founder of The Blaze, Glenn Beck, his podcast from Apple iTunes, gone. All 3,000 episodes vanished, gone, with no explanation.
Whoa. I didn't hear about this.
No explanation at all. And, of course, he took to social media, and thankfully he had a place to go, like Twitter, to put the word out there to not be censored. And, of course, eventually later in the day, they were returned. But Mr. Beck, as of, I believe, tonight, has gotten no response from Apple on what happened on the so-called glitch, just as he's talking about things like Georgia and things on his podcast that we're talking about every night on our podcast. This show, the audio version of this show, goes up on Apple iTunes and other places every single night afterwards. So how is it that Glenn Beck's platform gets deplatformed, 3,000 episodes by Apple with no explanation, and then all of a sudden it's back and they won't reach, as far as I know, they haven't reached out to him.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that, again, we are still, conservative talk is always going to be in the scope of the left, of these big tech monopolies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, the Democrat Party. They still believe they operate as the regime-approved gatekeepers of what is sufficient talk, what is acceptable talk, what is permissible speech, what is permissible conduct. And today is just a reminder of that. So the AM radio thing we got, kind of away from, but it's just not, we are not to forget that conservative talk will always be a target. If they could get rid of it, they would, through their FTC, Biden's FTC, people he's put up. Some of these nominees have been absolutely, that would be their goal. Thankfully, that one lunatic didn't get approved. But today's just another reminder of that as we head into this election season, that we are always going to be a target of these kind of things.
Yeah. And they will look for any opportunity to shut everything down. If you wake up one morning, oh, wow, I'm offline, I can't get on anything. Don't be surprised if that happens.
Yep.
It's not outside the scope. It could be test runs. Who knows? We've seen it happen in other countries where they shut down the internet because they're trying to make sure that the terrorists don't communicate. When you consider they're starting to call us terrorists, gives you reason to worry about it.